Well, hi. I hear you're trying to do an e-learning course, so there's a few things that you should know before we can get started. First off, all of the content will be found here at mathemanomicon.ca. That's my website. You do not need a login. You do not need to use your board email. You can just go there. All of the content is posted. That means all of the problem sets, all of the solution sets, all of the instructional videos, all of the practice tests, you can get to them immediately if you're ready to do so. So now that we've got that out of the way, there are a few things that you'll find on that website. First is instructional videos. So they'll look just like this on a big black field. And I'm going to try and walk you through each little bit of content with examples and some witty commentary, of course.
A 40-minute video? Ugh, I'll just Google the answers. Oh, that's a lot.
That is a terrible idea. The internet is filled with many wonderful things, and there are lots of tools that you can use out there, like Photomath or Khan Academy, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, that will help you to check your answers. But trying to learn the content, when you type something into Google, it gives you whatever. And a lot of that stuff is way above the level that you're at. And it's often written by people who do not work with folks who are learning it for the first time. So I would strongly suggest that you stick to the videos I've posted for the first go through. And then if there's an extra resource you'd like to look at, I mean, feel free to use it. But the problem sets, the practice tests, the actual tests are all specifically catered to the videos I've put up. So that's the best and most efficient place for you to look for information. Once you're done watching the video, if you scroll down through the page, you'll find some written notes. And those are basically a transcript of what's happened in the video. So if you would rather read it than watch it, that is an option.
I don't need to take notes. It's all up here.
Yes, I'm sure you're very good at remembering things. However, by the time we're done, you will have watched somewhere around 50 hours worth of instructional videos. And when you're trying to do exam review or working on practice problems later, and you think to yourself, I wonder where that thing was mentioned, because I remember hearing it. If you didn't take notes and you didn't make comments about when you found each thing in each video, you're going to have to rewatch the entire thing in order to find that one piece of information you need. So I would strongly suggest that you take some notes as you watch the videos. If you continue to scroll past those notes, you will find at the very bottom of the page a thing called practice problems. Now, those practice problems and their solutions are all posted all the time, and they are there for practice. They are not there for evaluation. You do not have to hand those in. So let me say one more time, do not hand in the practice problems. They're just there for you to give the work a try.
I don't need to do the practice problems. I'll just read the solutions.
I really think the most destructive thing you can do while trying to learn anything in math is to have the solution sitting right in front of you while you're trying to puzzle your way through problems. The reason for that is that you don't have to think then. You just start a problem, work on it until you get to something you don't know, and then rather than challenging your brain to grow or letting those neurons take the time they need to connect and make a new idea, you go straight to the solutions. And by robbing yourself the opportunity to think about what you're doing, there's no learning happening. You're just copying, really. So for this to stick, and for the actual skill of being able to puzzle your way through a problem to develop in your own brain, you need to set those solutions to the side. Try and get through as much of the practice problems as you can, and only when you've tried every single question do you go and take a look at the solutions. What you will find that I do need you to send in are the practice tests. So the way evaluation works in this course is you complete the practice test, take a picture of it, and send it in to me. Once you have sent that picture in to me, I will go through your practice test and I will look at how you've done on the questions, not for marks, but for feedback, so that I know that you know that I know what you're doing. Once I'm satisfied that you have a handle on the content so that there's no misunderstanding of questions or that I don't think you're lost, lost in the void, if I think you're ready based on your practice test, I will send you a link to the actual test, which you will print out or do electronically and send back into me for marks.
Ugh, just give me the real test. I'm sure I'll do fine.
No, you need to do the practice test. There's two reasons for that. The first one is just a matter of being able to understand what you're being asked. Very frequently, you get to a test question and you read it, and it's not exactly the same as the way you did it on the practice problems. And if you have misinterpreted what that question is asking you to do, then you spend all this time working out a solution, and then it's not actually to the question I asked. So if you do it on the practice test and I see that that's happening, that you're not quite interpreting the question the way I wanted to, then I can tell you that and guide you to the formatting or to the type of answer that I'm looking for before you've committed to it on the real test. Second off, there are a number of tools out there like Photomath or Wolfram Alpha that will just generate solutions for you. And because your marks have to be a reflection of your understanding, not your ability to Google an answer, I have specifically selected questions that those computer algorithms give you funny answers for. So if you hand a question in that has a Photomath or a Wolfram Alpha type solution on it, I might notice. And if I notice on the practice test, I will send you back feedback that says this is the Wolfram Alpha solution, and I won't accept it on the real test. And then you're going to figure out that you have to go back and solve the question in a specific way from how we covered it in the course. If you just give that to me on a real test, and I suspect that it's Photomath, I won't mark it wrong because it's not wrong, but I won't give you full credit for something that is way off target or at a much higher level than what you've been asked to do in this course. For example, when we get to, if you were doing slopes of tangents, slopes of curves, and you do anything with derivatives in it, and you're not in calculus, then you are doing a solution that's way beyond the course that you should be focused on. So if you do the practice test, not only can I clarify what the questions mean before it's a disaster, but I can also give you an opportunity to go back and make sure that you're doing the kind of solutions at the right level that you need to for this course.
I've got all the time in the world. I'll just get to that test later.
That is a terrible idea. There are 1,000 things that can go wrong between the day you get the practice test to the day that you get your feedback to the day that the test closes. And so as soon as you have an opportunity to do that real test, I would get on it post haste. The sooner you get it handed in, the sooner you can get started on the next section, or you can just take a minute to rest. As soon as you get that real test done, your brain can cool down, you don't have to stress about it, and you can lead a happy and healthy life moving forward. Please note in the calendar that there are 3 things marked as far as tests go. It shows you when feedback opens. So that's the day that I will start collecting practice tests and start writing emails back, letting you know how you're doing on those practice tests. The next thing that's marked on that is the feedback is closed. At that point, we are past where we have time in the course for us to exchange documents for your tests. I will send out an email with a link to the real test on that day, and you're on your own because we have to move on. The third thing that's marked is the test closed date. I will not accept a test after the test close date. And the reason for that is that in an e-learning course that's a whole semester long, if you are getting behind and getting behind and getting behind and getting behind, and you are missing these goalposts, eventually it's the end of the course and you have 8 units to do. And it's too much for you, it's too much for me. I can't give you good feedback if the entire course arrives in my mailbox with only 36 hours to the end of the course. So I'm going to be very firm about those test close dates. You must have it done by that date. So, practice problems. Don't hand those in. Practice tests. Do complete those and hand them in, not for marks, just for feedback. Actual tests, once you get the links, you will complete, take a picture, send in to me. When you do that, please make sure that your image files are JPEGs or PDF files. If you send me anything other than those, I will not be able to open them, and then we will have to get into this whole back and forth thing about what I can read and what I can't read, and it's very stressful for everyone. So if you can make an effort to send in JPEGs or PDFs, that would be great. Once you go to the website, you'll find a calendar listing all the topics and all the dates that you need to get things done by. Now, those timelines are suggestions. They are not hard and fast deadlines. But there is a lot of stuff to get through. And if you find yourself getting behind, it is very difficult to catch up. So there are a few things I need you to keep in mind as you go through. Number one, work ahead. If it says it's assigned for Monday and you happen to have a Saturday afternoon free, you would be wise to take a look at the video. Maybe you don't do the problem sets, maybe you don't do everything, but just give it a watch so that you have some idea of what's coming up so that you don't get too far behind. Number two, you need to be willing to let a topic go. So you may encounter something in this course where you just don't get it, and that's okay. Because things are compressed and because they're online, there will be topics that your brain just can't grab in the time allotted to them. So when that happens to you, you just take a deep breath, submit the practice test, and get on your way. Because each little section is really only worth a tiny part of the course. So if you don't get one thing, it's not going to matter that much anyway. And you will find that if you try something and can't get it, and then you come back to it later, and then you come back to it later, that it gets easier each time you do it. So you may not understand reducing trig expressions, for example, the first time you give it a try, but 3 or 4 weeks later, it will have rolled around in your brain long enough that you'll have figured it out. Unfortunately, if you have done nothing but those trig identities for 3 or 4 weeks, then you've missed an entire chunk of the course because you're so far behind. So sometimes you're just going to have to bite your tongue and move on to the next content. Number 3, I would politely ask you to name your files the following way. For example, my name is Jared McDonald. So if I was submitting my first test, I would name the file J for Jared, M for McDonald, test 1. That way, when I receive your files, I will be able to quickly see who they belong to and what they are. If you can appreciate that there can be up to 35 of you in this course, and if your test has 4 photos, suddenly that's 140 photos that I have to rename before I can start marking them. So in order to make sure I can get your work back to you as quickly and efficiently as possible, naming your files that way in some format that I can identify who they came from will speed that process along. I think that's it for now. So you should be able to head over to the website at mathmonomicon.ca, find your course on the main page, and get to work. Good luck.